It's been a beautiful winter here. I thought this was going to be a short video this week, but with the fires down in LA, I thought I'd say a few words. I've been evacuated twice from wildfires, so I have a little bit of a sense of the stress that people are going through down there. I was fortunate that none of the communities I lived in, we lost any property or life, but our neighbors have in both situations, lost life and huge property loss. So just to everybody down in LA, I hope everybody pitches together and gets through this. It reminded me there's a chant in the Pali Canon where there's a baby quail and it's in this nest and a grass fire breaks out in the meadow it's in. And as the fire's approaching, it realizes its danger and it realizes that it can't do anything physically to save itself. Its legs aren't mature enough, its wings aren't strong enough to fly yet. The quail's parents are away, so even if they could do anything, they're not there. And so it reflects that physically it can't do anything to save itself, but mentally it did have some control. And it reflects that in its entire life, it hasn't had a single thought of ill will. It's just had goodwill, appreciation for its parents, feeding it, having a nest for it, protecting it from predators, and just all the other thoughts it's had have never been negative towards anything. And it just makes this declaration that says, by any goodness that comes from the purity of its life up to that point, may it protect the baby quail and also all the other beings in that meadow. And it says that the fire just skipped over the meadow. It's the 16 acres that it was in. It just bypassed that. So our intentions, our thoughts do have power. So wishing everybody well. This has been an amazing winter in that the snow keeps sticking in the trees almost from the very beginning of the winter. Usually you'll get a big snow and it'll look postcard beautiful like this, but then the winds will come and blow it out. But it just hasn't happened this winter, so it's been really spectacular walking around out here. We do have like 5 of us, almost half the monastery, are getting out for daily walks. Christian, Giannis, Dash, Pia, and myself. So we've been getting out with the plow and plowing about 3 kilometers in each direction so that it's easy to get out on these winter roads. And it is just beautiful out here. Hello, I'm Ajahn Jyotipalo. Welcome to Sauntering into Silence. This morning I was talking to several of my friends. Both of them, kind of the subject came up of talking about teachers and getting various opinions from people about their teaching style and if they're right or wrong. I know that can be sometimes really confusing. And my friend actually gave me a really interesting analogy that I'd never heard before, which was, different people react differently to different, situations. And he said this simile he heard was, you take a carrot, which is hard, all the way through, hard on the outside, an egg, which is hard on the outside, soft in the middle, and coffee beans. So you take these, and each one individually you put into boiling water. Well, the carrot is going to turn soft. It's going to be mushy. The egg is still going to stay hard on the outside. It's also going to become hard on the inside. And coffee beans is going to change. It's going to change the liquid that it's in. It's going to transform the water into something delicious, at least for me. Yeah, the coffee becomes coffee. So I thought that was a great analogy that you could, the same medium, say boiling water, and you get 3 different results. And so the same thing can happen with teachings and teachers. It really kind of depends on what is right for you. If you're the type of person that loves suttas and wants things, kind of explained and go into deep analysis of the Pali Canon. That's something that I enjoy to a certain extent, but it's not something that some reason just doesn't really stay in my mind very long. But when I am in conversations with people about these things, it kind of surprises me sometimes how much I do remember from all the conversations I've been in, kind of in a training situation. A monastery, you might be like every evening you have question and answers or teaching situations where you might be taking suttas in the evening and reading them and group discussion. So it's always fascinating to me how much that sticks in your mind, and that's why it's also good to reflect and to have good friends to talk about Dhamma, because these things are refreshed when you bring them up like that. Obviously with my channel, it's much more about being outside in nature, and kind of I'm encouraging that for people, and just sauntering into silence. There's a real beauty for that, and I think there was an interview I did with Ajahn Sona talking about being in nature before I went down to Yosemite. He points out in that yes, you do need to have the teachings, you need to have a foundation, and then if you have that and then you go out into nature, it's like you're putting yourself at the doorstep. You're putting yourself, out here is where you might be able to have the quiet, the peacefulness, to set things aside, and to be able to kind of realize the teachings that we've been studying, reading, putting into practice. There are teachers like, say, Ajahn Sona, his question and answers every week. He does a live stream on, I think it's Sunday morning, 9 o'clock here in British Columbia time. But he also has many, many YouTube videos, describing all the various different types of practices. So if that's something that also appeals to you, there are various teachers that you can go to get that. So this is a nice little plug for Ajahn Sona's channel, which I think is called Ajahn Sona. Hope everybody's having a great week. So isn't this a gorgeous spot right here? Let me turn the camera on and I'll walk out here and you can see what I'm seeing.